So next up, we have Heirs to Our Oceans, which is a global cohort of youth dedicated to inspiring awareness, responsibility, and action amongst youth worldwide to protect the waters of our blue planet. A little bit of noise in the background. They fight for the protection of our Mother Earth and ocean because they have realized that the way we have been treating it is wrong and dangerous, and they want to change the tide to turn it around. And we have Olalai, Oldekel, and Risa from Heirs to Our Oceans Palau. We have Jolia, I believe, Heirs to Our Oceans member from Marshall Islands, and then Leilani is from Guam. So how are you guys all doing?
Good. Hi, we're doing good.
Great. So you guys can go ahead, take it away. Whoever wants to share their screen can go ahead.
All right. So I guess Heirs to Our Oceans Palau will begin first for the session with Heirs to Our Oceans. I just want to begin saying Ali from the Republic of Palau. I hope everybody at this time, during this difficult time, that you guys are all doing well and are safe and are healthy, physically, mentally, and emotionally. We're all sending virtual hugs and thoughts and prayers to everyone around the world. Today, Heirs to Our Oceans Palau will be presenting to you all about the difficulties and the obstacles we face with plastic pollution and climate change, especially to the island nations in the Pacific who are experiencing firsthand the effects on climate change. But before we begin our session, I'm going to ask all of us here, the presenters, to please introduce themselves. So,
hello, my name is Yuso Long. I'm 16 years old, and what inspires me to protect the ocean is growing up in different countries. I've seen different environments and different damages done to it. And now living here in Palau, I see how deeply the environment is integrated into our culture, and I just wish to preserve that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olilai Chilton, and I'm 19 years old. And what inspires me to protect and to fight for the protection of our Mother Earth is that I want to have a healthy and bright future for myself in the future and for my children's children and for the generation to come.
Ali, my name is Adora. I'm 18 years old. What inspired me, or should I say motivated me to protect the ocean, is that I grew up loving the oceans. My parents raised me to love the ocean. My dad's a fisherman. My mom worked several jobs protecting and learning about it. And then as time goes by, I see so much human impact and so much changes that I don't want to see in the ocean. And that's exactly what made me want to protect it even more and even educate others about how important it is and how much we need it. And to start our presentation, I will begin. So what is Heirs to Our Ocean? I'm going to explain it in my own perspective and how much I know about it and what it made me do. So what Heirs to Our Oceans is, it's a nonprofit organization. It is run by April Peebler and Brad Peebler and her beautiful children, Dakota and Charlie. And what they focus on is they help educate younger teenagers like us and younger kids, and that what the ocean is going through and what are the impacts. And as we go home, to our islands, we are able to educate the high-ranking people. But before we do that, of course, we come to camp. That's what we do. We come to camp, and then we network with other people from different places, from different islands, and then we tell them what our islands are going through and what the high-ranking people are trying to do and what they've experienced. So, yeah. And then at camp back at San Francisco, we went to Sacramento. We went there, and then we networked with most of the legislators and their assistants, and then we asked them why or why not they won't pass a specific bill to ban specific plastics, and they did share their reasons, and then we went and we networked and we did talk to them, and yeah, we kind of we kind of took it from there as teenagers, like sharing to them like how much we're concerned about the plastic that they've been like spreading. They're not the only ones spreading it, but we do like ask them to like please pass this bill so that you guys could like influence other countries to do the same thing. And also after camp, then we come back home, but that's not where we stop, because like when you start school, there's these things called chapters, like PMA and Mizenti in high school. I got a I got a Palau high school. Rissa goes to
Mizenti.
Mizenti, and we have chapters there. Like we make clubs that we invite people to join, and then you like make activities, collect trash, do brand audits. Like you collect trash and then you segregate them, and then you write the brands down, and then we send them to like a specific organization, and then they like put pressure in those companies saying these are your garbage. We see your products in our waters. You have to do something about it, and then they'll stop. So yeah, I'll just conclude my presentation there and just pass it on to these two. Thank you.
Sulang Yelver or Adora. So for my part of this session, I'm going to be talking about climate change and how it's linked to plastic pollution. Many people around the world of different ages don't really realize and understand that climate change is actually linked to plastic pollution and the creation of plastics. Climate change, as many of us are aware of, are the different effects Mother Nature goes through and experiences due to the carbon emissions emitted and trapped in Earth. So carbon emissions come from various things, many things. For instance, carbon emissions come from electricity, transportation, the beef industry, and even oil factories. That's how it intertwines with the creation of plastics. So by supporting and using plastics, especially single-use plastics, we are contributing a lot to climate change. Because oil factories, what they do is they burn fossil fuels that emit carbon emissions into the earth. And the oil factories are a major contribution, one of the major contributions to climate change and the effects. So if we continue to use plastics, especially single-use plastics, we are supporting those industries and companies who are creating them, and we're actually giving the opportunity for them to do more business. Therefore, they're going to be burning more fossil fuels and burning more plastic. It's just how the business would work. But if we really think about it, if we step back and really think about plastics and what it's done and how it's impacted us, it's actually been a big part of our lives. Plastics are some of the makings of great inventions that we have and that we use in today's day and age. For instance, plastic materials are used to create our computers, our laptops, our cell phones, even to the pens we use every day. So through that, we've had a positive impact on plastics. But at least by trying to stop and avoid using single-use plastics, such as plastic plates, packaging, forks, cups, even the coffee lids and coffee stirrers, we could try and stop our support to those companies and industries that create them. And by doing this, by trying your best to avoid and use alternatives besides plastics, this is one of the ways we can help to mitigate climate change and let our Mother Ocean breathe again. But if you want to take a bigger step for you as an individual or you as a youth organization like Heirs to Our Oceans, if you want to take a bigger step and take it to the next level to help reduce the impacts of plastic pollutions and plastics, I believe what you can do to make a strong change is go to your government leaders and your traditional leaders and address this issue to them and state the facts on how plastics are affecting our oceans and our land and even our health. Address this and state the facts and have a conversation with them and educate them. We should be able to have that open conversation with our elders to talk about these issues because that's what we're going to face in the future, us youths. So by addressing these issues and stating the facts, you can also uh, uh, convince them as well to try and eliminate single-use plastics in their office, in their government office. So challenge them by uh, eliminating single-use plastics in their office kitchens, in their meetings, and even in their functions. That can be the first step that they can do to try and help as government leaders. And what they can do to take it a little bit further and take greater measures is they can actually take what they've learned and what we've spoken about, the facts and the issues of plastic pollution, and actually address it to the public, to their people, and educate them. And also try to convince them to use this method and try to steer away from using single-use plastics. By doing so, they can be persuading and changing how businesses, how schools, how public offices, restaurants, and stores act and behave uh, with single-use plastics. So that's another step that we youths or individuals can take alongside with our leaders and our elders. But while all of this is possible, anything's possible if you have the passion to do it. Sorry. While all of this is possible, you should also be able to make sure to hop on and check in and be persistent with what you're fighting for, because sometimes they lack reinforcement in some areas. So of course, doing this and trying to make a big change is very difficult. You're gonna come against challenges and backlash, maybe lack of confidence and faith. So work together, work with your support team and your friends and your peers, and check up on your government leaders or your auntie that owns that store, or your uncle that owns that restaurant. Check up on them, and make sure that they're doing the best they can to steer away from single-use plastics, and make sure that that's being pulled through. So when you're doing that with the passion that you have and with your friends, you can be able to actually take things further. Yeah. And with that being said, that concludes my part of the session, and I'm going to pass it along to Risa. Thank you.
Hi, it's me again, Risa. And going off of what both Olila and Adora were talking about, today I'll be giving tips on how to live a sustainable life. So part of Heirs to our Oceans is not only being educated on what is happening to our ocean right now, but also implementing practices that help us to change and improve our environment. So with that being said, what exactly a sustainable lifestyle is trying to live your life consuming as little of Earth's resources as possible. Basically, only taking what you need. And the reason why it's so important that we all take steps towards sustainable living is because, especially at the rate at which we consume now, it's severely damaging our environment. So if we live sustainable today, if we consume as little as possible, we'll have a brighter future tomorrow. And with that being said, my first tip to living a sustainable life is to use reusable bags. And here I have one that I made myself. It's made out of a t-shirt, and here it is. And if you would like to join me later on in a couple minutes making your own, just grab an old t-shirt that you have and a pair of scissors. But back to the tips. Using reusable bags is a great first step to living a sustainable lifestyle because it just starts with that one thing, right? Just cutting out that plastic out of your life, because honestly it's so much, especially when you have to go again and again to groceries. That means you're just consuming plastic again and again. So simply switching out reusable bags instead of a single-use bag, that makes a lot of differences. And with that first step, you can move on to cutting out other single-use plastic in your life. Like instead of using a plastic straw when you go out, you can bring your own metal straw and you can reuse that again and again. And there's other things like bringing your own hydro flask or your own container. And yeah, that can lead to a lot of improvement in your life. Yeah. And then my next step would be to source your food locally. And what I mean by that is like going out fishing for your own meal, or having your own chickens, or even getting eggs from the local farm. And the reason why that's so great for our environment because in our extensive food supply chain, where you're not only buying the product, right? Say you buy a bag of chips, you're not only buying the chips, but you're buying the packaging, you're buying the gas that it's delivered in, or even the oil that fuels a ship. You're buying all the factory emissions. That you're causing a lot of waste just by buying that one bag of chips. So not only is it healthy and it supports your community, but just by buying something locally, it reduces the amount of waste that you're consuming, or you're producing, sorry. And then my next tip is for fashion. Yeah, in the last segment, I was listening in for a bit, and they were talking about sustainable fashion or fast fashion, yeah, and the damages that has to our environment, especially because the clothing and textile industry is the second largest polluter in the world. So with that in mind, instead of buying into trends, into trendy clothing, it's better to buy very versatile clothing that you can use again and again and again and use until it lasts. Yeah, and it's better to buy from secondhand stores instead of constantly going to the store to buy new things and then throwing them away. And then my next tip is for transportation. A lot of us nowadays have our own cars and we're constantly driving all the time, and that's directly contributing to climate change just by driving around. So instead of maybe driving around, you could use public transportation or even take a walk, which is great for your health. But yeah, I think that's all I have for tips today. Okay. And now if you'd like to join me for our little DIY, I'll be making a t-shirt bag like the one I showed you earlier. Yeah.
You want to come sit here?
Yeah, I'm really
For more space. Yeah. For more space. Okay. So this is what the finished product is. Like this. And this is one of my brother's t-shirts, so that's why it's so big. But can I move this? Okay. So here I have a shirt. And you don't have to mark it like I did. I just did it so that the audience can see better. But I marked where we're supposed to be cutting. And this doesn't require sewing, it just requires cutting. Okay. So the first step would be to cut off both of the sleeves and right along the line here. And then the second step would be to cut the collar off. And it depends on you how wide you want your sleeve. But yeah, just first you would cut off this sleeve and then this sleeve and then cut around the collar. And I'll do that really quickly. Yeah. So here's me cutting. Yeah, and like I said, you don't have to make these lines. I just did it so it's more visible for the audience. And okay. And then the next would be the collar. Oh, I'll fold it in half to make it more even. So here, can that be visible? Okay. So here I'm folding it in half so that when I cut it, it's going to be more even. Okay. And it's just like this.
And this is great for old shirts that you don't use anymore, you know, ones that got too small or ones that don't fit or have like a weird stain on them. Okay, and then the next step would be I made several lines down here, and that is where you would um, cut both sides of the shirt. And then what you would do is that these would be all several strips down here. And then all you do is tie a knot and then tie the knot again just to be secure. And then you do that along the whole length of the shirt. Yeah, and so I'm just gonna demonstrate that. Just like that. And then now that you have two strips over here, yeah, all you have to do is tie it in a knot. And then tie it again just to be secure. Yep, just like that. And then you do it along the whole shirt. You can even make it longer if you want, but it just depends on your taste. And then just to make that short, this is the final product and how it looked at in the end. You can even turn it inside out if you don't really like the tassels, and just keep it on the inside. And it could just look like this. And yeah, that's the end of our DIY activity.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So with Risa's creative DIY t-shirt bag, that concludes our session for Heirs to Our Oceans Palau. We hope you enjoyed and learned something. If you guys want to know more about our organization or have any questions you want to ask us, please follow us on our social medias, Instagram, and also on what's our website at h2oo.org. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. All right, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
All right.
All right, so I believe we have Leilani up to do the second half of the Heirs to Our Oceans session. Thank you guys again so much. That was really, really awesome. I'm really excited to try this reusable bag trick. I think it's really, really awesome and super, super easy. So thank you guys again. Now, Leilani, you are able to unmute. There you are. Awesome. And
Hello.
the floor is all yours.
All right. Thank you very much. And it was really inspiring hearing from my sisters from a neighboring island there in Palau. I've been there once before, actually March of 2019, and I went scuba diving there for the first time, and it blew my mind just how amazing your waters were. And that really inspired me when I came home, because just seeing the drastic difference, right, from what a healthy reef should look like and how it actually ties into my topic of today, community-based management, how that's working in places like Palau, and then coming home to Guam and just kind of seeing that unfortunate difference in what the reefs look like here as opposed to there, just because community-based management and other marine policies there are in full effect and definitely working for the islands of Palau. So I'm just gonna get right into it. Introduce myself. My name, Guahu si Leilani Sablan. My name is Leilani Sablan. I am 22 years old, and currently I am working as a sea turtle biologist with the University of Guam Sea Grant Program and an active member of Micronesian Conservation Coalition. I actually graduated with my Bachelor's of Science in Biology back in 2019, and I'm going back to school this August to pursue my Master's of Science in Biology at the Marine Lab. So since I just have a few minutes, I'm going to get straight into it and talk about community-based management and reconnecting Guam's people to place through community-based management. And I actually hate using that word, management, because it presumes separation, right? And this concept of human power over the environment. And we have to understand, right? And we all know here that people are not separate from the ocean. I think we can all agree on that, right? And I suppose that's a concept that we have kind of failed to teach our children in the classroom, but most importantly in our homes. Because then now we have successive generations that are disconnected to this ancestral resource. And the majority of those that are connected to the ocean here on Guam are connected in the wrong way, meaning it's really an unhealthy relationship where we have a lot of people out there every day overfishing our reefs or poaching endangered species like our hagen or our sea turtle and doing other wrongful acts to our ocean. And what we have failed to do is to teach our children, right, that people and resources together constitute community. And I believe that it's the widespread perspective of human power over the environment that has led to this loss of respect and this loss of reciprocity for our ocean and its resources. We're not as tied to the ocean culturally and spiritually as our Chamorro ancestors were in the past. You know, as a firsthand diver, spearfisherwoman, marine researcher, I do see with my own eyes how the ocean is being treated here on Guam. The ocean almost seems like something that has to be conquered, something that has to be drained of its resources rather than an entity to give back to so that it can sustain future generations. And that is the ultimate goal, right? Is sustaining our resources so that they can feed our children and for other generations to come. Now, this is not to say that all people on Guam have separated themselves completely from the ocean in a cultural way, but it is definitely most people. Because if we all were tied to the ocean the same way our ancestors were, we wouldn't have degrading reefs here on Guam. We wouldn't have rare fish food species around our reefs. We wouldn't be experiencing plastic pollution along our shoreline. We've really just lost touch with who we are as Tautasi, or people of the ocean. So we on Guam rely very heavily on government enforcement of marine policy. So making sure that it's the conservation officers that will prosecute people fishing in marine preserves and other illegal acts on our ocean and resources in general. But should we truly rely on the government to look after what's the people's resources? Because quite frankly, here in Guam, we don't have enough conservation officers for the entire population. We have 6 or 7 conservation officers throughout the entire island, which has about 165,000 residents. That's simply an impossible mission to be able to look after all those people that are, you know, fishing on our reefs or hunting in our tropical forests. So the people, when it comes to community-based management, it's the people within a village are meant to serve as guardians or caretakers of local resources, from mountains to streams to tropical forests, all the way out to our coral reefs. This is the island that has built you up since you were born. You know, this ocean that surrounds us literally gives us life. So the simplest thing that we can do in return for this ancestral resource is to take care of it ourselves as a local people, rather than relying on the government to do that for us. Now, unfortunately, community-based management does tie into my earlier point about, you know, the loss of Chamorro connection to the ocean. Because how can we have effective community-based management if the root of the system, which is the people, are disconnected from the ocean or just simply don't care? However, I do have hope in the younger generation, starting with ours. I do see a lot of conservation efforts from different youth here in Guam, and not just ocean related, but terrestrial as well. I really believe it's not too late to cultivate a generation that is once again connected to the ocean in the right ways. You know, the ocean is our ancestral heritage. It's the same waters that our ancestors fished in, the same reefs that they managed with chiefs and villagers. The dream for what is going to work with fisheries management here in Guam is to bring coastal management back to the local level in line with ancestral practices while adapting fishing to a changing community and climate. But first, we have to bring back that ancestral connection to the ocean. And I guess this is kind of where I want to switch into learning about, I guess, where you guys are from, the audience, as well as the other panels here. If you guys want to unmute and kind of have a discussion on a few questions here. So I'm really interested, of course, in my brothers and sisters in the Micronesian Islands, here in the Pacific. So I just wanted to first start out, like, how are people where you're from kind of tied to the ocean? Are they tied to the ocean at all? Or are you kind of seeing more generations that are kind of disconnecting themselves from the ocean, really seeing it as just a resource to take from, and rather than a resource to give back to? are people still connected, or is it kind of just the same where, you know, with different, okay, see, from Bailey, I'm in a landlocked community and many people don't feel the responsibility to protect our ocean. And that's where it gets really frustrating. And I mean, people coming from landlocked areas, it's really hard to visualize how the ocean literally gives the entire planet life, right? And what's confusing to me is that living here on Guam, we are surrounded by this ocean, right? My brothers and sisters living in the islands, we're surrounded by this ocean, and yet there's still this lack of responsibility to protect our ocean. And it's really a frustrating battle, I guess, to fight, because we have a lot of people doing outreach out there, but it's hard to change behavior. And I think we can all agree that, you know, as much outreach as we can do to the community, it's really up to the individual to change their behavior. I can't even imagine how difficult it is in a landlocked community to encourage people to protect our ocean. Because how it started out with me was I took marine biology in high school. And before that, I was a complete bookworm. Like, I didn't take a step outside my house after school. I didn't like hiking. I didn't like diving. But when I took marine biology in high school, I was able to immerse myself in that, you know, entirely amazing new world, and understanding the things that I was learning about in the classroom, but taking that outside and seeing it with my own eyes. And that's yet another issue, is marine science is not even a required course here in our schools. And it's just confusing, because we are surrounded by an ocean, and it's something that, you know, we do need to learn about. So one of my goals, I guess, in the near future is to kind of just bring marine science as a requirement in classrooms. Yes, it is confusing to see. So from Daniela, it's confusing to see how humans are so blind to see that we've done to hurt the ocean. Yes, yes, it is. It's not only confusing, but it does kind of discourage those in conservation efforts, right, to kind of push forward with what they're doing. But at the same time, we should take that as an inspiration, right? More motivation to bring awareness to right here at home. Start at home, bring awareness to your immediate community first, and then hoping that the word just gets around and people change their behavior for the better. So from Olelai, yes, people here in Palau, old and young, are still very well connected to our oceans, and we still do our very best to preserve what's left. And yes, that is one thing I do really admire about Palau, as well as Yap. So I've been to Yap several times. I don't know if any of my brothers and sisters in my community have been there as well, but I was able to participate in sea turtle nesting on an island called Gilip, which literally stands for Turtle Island. And I spent a few nights there tagging turtles, counting eggs. And, you know, while I was there I was asking the local people, you know, how do you manage your resources here? Because I know here in Youth-A-Thon, you still, you know, feed on turtles. You still consume them, you still catch them and distribute the meat. And they were telling me and my fellow colleagues that how they manage their sea turtle resources on a community level is that the community does come together to only harvest a certain amount of sea turtles during the slow part of the nesting season. The meat is then taken to the chief, who the sea turtles are taken to the chief, where the meat is actually distributed to different islands in the atoll. How do we find that connection to our ocean if we are so far away? That is a tough one, and it's really hard for me to answer that, just because I've been, you know, born and raised on an island. But technology is really a useful piece of, you know, technology, I guess, that we have these days, and people can really I guess find a connection to our ocean just by, you know, learning about it, right? You don't have to be living near an ocean to understand how important it is. We have many documentaries out there that really do explain the importance of our ocean. We have a lot of outreach material online, right, that's available to the general public free of charge, to be able to just learn about the ocean, its resources. And I guess another thing that I do recommend is just trying to find that connection to place, right? Because no matter where you're from, the ocean is having a direct effect, whether you know it or not, and where you're at, where you come from. And so just reconnecting to where you're from, because I have to remind myself to do that every now and then. Yes, I was born and raised here on Guam as a local Chamorro, but I have to remind myself to go back to my roots, because I do get lost in, the millennial generation, and just the fact that a lot of people here on Guam really have a hard time caring for our ocean, just because that ancestral connection has been lost quite a while ago. But trying to cultivate that back again. And I do see in my generation that it's, I do see hope. We have so many people, young generations here, that are getting back into ocean conservation, or just conservation of our resources in general. And I do believe that's the start to cultivating that ancestral connection again, and then bringing community-based management here on Guam, because that's, we didn't have a government back in our ancestral times. It was the chiefs, right, and the villagers that looked after the resources within their village. And so if we can bring that back again, because we cannot rely on the government, that's how it should be, is it's up to the people to protect their own resources. But how can we do that if the people themselves are so disconnected? And I think that's just what we need to focus on here on Guam, is just bringing that ancestral connection back. From Daniela again, I attended a river cleanup with my mom. We found small fish and bugs that use the river to survive. I also found a laptop. That is actually very interesting. So everything, the rivers and the oceans are connected, right? This cleanup actually does remind me of kind of a community-based management that I participate in every year. So my partner and I basically lead this scuba snorkeling cleanup at the southernmost village of Guam. It's Malesu, the village of Malesu. And we noticed that there's just so much trash that's being put into the pier there, the Maritzo Pier, which is an iconic symbol of southern Guam. A lot of people go there, a lot of tourists go there to jump in the waters. A lot of fishermen go there and cast their lines. But what's happening, right, is that these fishermen are cutting their lines, and when it gets caught in the coral. So you put your mask and snorkel on, hop in the water, and all you see is a bunch of fishing line just all over the coral. And it really encouraged us to start a cleanup. So for the past 4 years now, we've gathered almost more than 300 divers throughout Guam's community and pulled up more than 2 tons of trash just from the Maritzo Pier, which constituted cans, bottles, tires, umbrellas, fishing line, you name it, it was all down there. And I guess that's one form of community-based organization that I take part of, and I do encourage other people from other places to initiate their own projects to encourage community-based organization. Yes, lots of fishing line. I'm really not surprised, even if it's Palau, definitely a lot. So what sort of, I guess, community-based management practices do you know of, like where you're from? I guess a specific example, like I talked about how in Youth-A-Thon, they harvest a certain amount of sea turtles within a season, and then it's the chief that actually distributes the meat to different islands. Maybe some of you can share where you're from. I think back then people used to hunt to survive. Yeah. And I think, yes, exactly. So back then, right, our ancestors didn't hunt for sport. They hunted to survive, because that's all they had was, the tropical forests and the ocean. It's their source of life. Literally, there is a very direct connection between our ancestors and the resources. But now we have a lot of, I guess we really lost that ancestral connection because we have so much imported food that we can go straight to the supermarket and get something there, right? Rather than having to go directly to the ocean to get food. And that's two very different perspectives, because then you're not in the ocean seeing coral bleaching happen. You're not seeing the health of our reefs firsthand, because you can just go to the store and just get, a parrotfish there. It's no big deal, right? So I really do believe that's also the source of the problem, is not just the lack of education to our children and teaching them that we are connected to the ocean, but also just because of industrialization and imported food that we can go to the supermarket and just get it there. So Jacqueline says, to have the greatest impact, it seems education about living sustainably should start in preschool, kindergarten. Is this covered in school? It is not here on Guam. I don't know if it is elsewhere, but I do agree that, you know, it does start with education, and it does start at a very young age, I do believe. If we can bring living sustainably into the classroom, I guess you're in a way forcing, you know, students to learn, but it's for a good reason, right? Sustainability is our ultimate goal if you're trying to sustain resources for generations. And if we can bring that into the classroom and bring back, right, that tie, that connection to the ocean and to our resources, then we can get the younger generations to care, and then bring about community-based organization back to place. I'm not sure how much time I have left, but I do believe I'm at the end of it.
Yeah, so Julia is up next. Thank you so much, Leilani. That was so informative, and you speak with such like vigor and passion, and it was just really nice to hear you talk so passionately about something that you're really, really passionate about. But yes, Julia, if you are ready to unmute, we are ready to have you.
Yakwe, everyone from the Marshall Islands. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Julia Peter. Well, sorry. It was nice to hear from every one of you, and it is nice to meet you guys. My name is Julia Peter, and I'm the Marshallese representative from Heirs to Our Ocean. And today my session will be, I'll be talking about what I am doing here in the Marshall Islands in the community that is related to climate change, or like the things that I'm doing here in the Marshall Islands, projects, climate change related. And recently, well, first I am working at Jojigum, which is a nonprofit organization run by Kathy Chidungul Kuchinur, if any of you guys are familiar with her. And we are a part of this coalition called Enochuan, along with other organizations. And Enochuan in our language is never mind. And it is about reducing single-use plastic here in the Marshall Islands. And over here I have, this is what it is. As you can see, it's a straw, a plastic straw. And recently we had surveys. We've been going around to the supermarkets here in the Marshall Islands, and we had these surveys, and we also have we had a petition where everyone signed so that we show the government that there is community support in eliminating single-use plastic. And while we were doing that, we were also handing out reusable bags as well. But in the surveys, we have questions with like to know how much the people here know about plastic and how bad it is and their knowledge about it. And that's basically what this coalition is about. And it's eliminating single-use plastic and also paper bags. We're trying to promote using reusables here in the Marshall Islands. And I'm more passionate about this plastic pollution thing. Well, we are here in the Marshall Islands, we are also facing other climate crises such as coral bleaching, coral bleaching, plastic pollution, sea level rise. And I see that these climate crises are affecting my home. Therefore, it is also affecting me. And I have to fight for my islands, which is my home, the island my ancestors fought for. And also have to fight for this island for future generations. Um, but before I end the session, I just want to say a little story about how before I didn't really like, let's say, care about like these social issues or like these climate crises happening here until I joined my first camp in Palau, Heirs Ocean Camp there in Palau in Malacayok. And it was such a nice experience and it was nice to be able to gain some knowledge about the climate crisis that we are facing here in this world. And it got me, like, it opened my mind and my eyes to what is happening and that everything is real and that it is happening right now and today. And I want to thank Heirs Ocean and April for always reaching out to me, and also for this opportunity that I have to share my experiences and also to share what I am doing here in the Marshall Islands. And I guess that this is all I have for this session. So thank you all for listening. I'm sorry.
I just wrote one question in the chat for you, Jolia. I just wanted to know.
Okay. Yeah, I just saw it. Sorry.
No, it's all good. What is your favorite action that you take personally to reduce your personal plastic footprint?
Favorite action? Well, like, what do you mean by that? Like, what I'm doing here in the community?
I mean, you like to do the things that are more DIY, like they did their t-shirt bag idea.
Oh, okay.
Or do you like to talk to your elected officials or, something along those lines? Like, what's just your favorite thing that you do to impact change?
Well, I don't really do DIYs, I guess. But things that I do, basically just living a plastic-free life by setting examples to other youths and to those who do not know how plastic affects our country. So I hope this answers your question, Laura.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for joining us. We still have about 5-10 minutes-ish left. So
Okay.
if any of you Ocean Heirs want to hop back on and answer any questions that anybody might have. Bailey, I'm not sure. I don't have YouTube right in front of me. I can't really, not sure if you have any questions on there right now, but it's really wonderful to talk to you. I've met a couple of different Heirs to our Oceans in previous programs that I've been a part of, and it's really awesome to be able to talk to you guys who are out there in the islands and really, on the front lines of some of this stuff. It's really awesome to be able to talk with you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. I have a quick
Thank you
question
for
from
including
YouTube.
us.
One question for you all from YouTube. How do you all talk to your friends, your family, your community members about plastic pollution? I think sometimes it gets really hard when you're talking about the issues to not want to come off as, telling everyone, oh, you can't have any plastic ever, and some people are like, oh no, they close their ears when it sounds too preachy maybe, or that you're, telling them what to do. So how do you guys talk to them in a way that makes them go, yeah, I need to not do that?
I guess with me, it's little talk and more showing action. So the one project that I was talking about that I do every year is just inviting the community down to the pier to, Molesta Pier, sorry, down in Guam, to come and see all the plastic that's being brought up from the bottom of the ocean, and just having them experience that with their own eyes. So not really so much using words, but visualizing that plastic actually being manifested in their eyes, and seeing the community come together to clean up that important part of the reef from fishing line and from all that plastic. And that's really the point of our project, is just to bring the community down to the southernmost village of Guam and show them what plastic is doing to our reefs and how it's having an effect. So I think, yeah, and personally for me, it's really just showing people. It's not verbally telling them like, don't use plastic, you know, don't do this, don't do that. It's just showing them the impact directly and hoping that that inspires them to reduce their plastic footprint.
Yeah, I think also for us, it would be the same. Or for me personally, I've really tried to make it a point every time I go to our two main shopping centers. I always bring my bag with me. Sometimes when I'm with my friends, they get irritated with me because I have to wait and I have to get my bags. But then I think just by showing the initiative and the effort that I'm taking to use my own reusable bags, I think that's what can really make change within my friend groups, and also even in my family as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Action, you know what they say, actions speak louder than words. You do it so people can follow your examples, and that's how they're gonna want to do it. And you just don't talk, you just have to show it to them. And
Yeah, no, that's awesome. The other question that we got, which is a really cool question. I was actually talking to Olalai and the Heirs from Palau about this, but for a lot of people watching right now, maybe this is the first time they've ever heard about your communities. You know, maybe they've never even heard of Palau, heard of the Marshall Islands, heard of Guam. What is one thing you would like them to know about your community, or you'd like to share about where you guys are at right now?
Let's see. We're right now with Heirs to our Oceans, or as youth here in Palau.
Just young people in Palau.
Okay. Do you guys want to? I think like
Me,
yeah.
I'm like the talkative of my family ever had. Every time every time when we're together, whenever they like bring out plastic, whenever they want to use it, I'm like, no, just like, please, man, just like bring your bags or like just hold them. Go to like the markets and then like so fast to like, I'm so of plastic. My relatives and my friends, you're saying no to plastic, and we're like carefully and this and this and that, and then that's where I like hold them down and then educate them like, I'm only gonna use plastic just one time, like for today, and then I'm gonna throw it away, and then where's it gonna go? And like plastic and all the other trash that's like spilling on in our waters is becoming like it's almost becoming another layer of the ocean, like making, there's like a really big difference in the ocean before that I grew up, ocean that I'm seeing today. And it's not something I want to like just keep to that. So I want to like educate and like have them so that we can still left, and then like just whatever it takes to just clean it up so that our future generations, my kids, my grandkids, and my great grandkids, they don't have to like listen to me sit down and be like, hey, there's this thing, there's an animal in the ocean called a turtle. Like they might think I'm crazy. I want to say that so that they could see it, and then they could know they can like touch it and know what it looks like, and all these like really cool stuff that I get to experience. I don't have to tell them, they can just see it. And it is because of me educating other people and my friends like taking like the action, like you know, like just do these stuff and like just avoid plastic, it's because of us doing that and we were able to like save what's left and then like share it to the world. Keep it there.
And I also think with the convenience of technology now, where it's really easy for us to communicate with one another via social media, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Messenger, and Facebook. I've really seen a lot of youths here in Palau. Some fun fact: youths here in Palau is 25 years and younger. So when I'm really saying youths here, I've seen a lot of young adults, 25 years and younger, and my peers really stand up for change, especially with the Our Oceans conference going to be held here in Palau. A lot of them has been posting and educating a lot of their peers on social media on the issues on like plastic pollution, land waste management, a lot of stuff. But also with the hashtag Black Lives Matter, we've also addressed that issue here. And with the convenience of social media, we're able to gather together on like Facebook Messenger and really communicate with one another and share our thoughts and talk to one another and educate one another. And I think from that, it's going to be growing, and there's going to be a huge change on thoughts and perspectives of the Palauan youths compared to the elders now. So I think that's one thing that's currently happening right now here amongst the youths in Palau.
It doesn't always work out. It doesn't always work out. I mean, like, we're not perfect. It doesn't always work out. Because, like, I 100% respect my elders.
Yeah.
I respect them very, very much. Like, I really do. But there are just some things that, like, you know, sometimes, like, there are just some things that we just don't really agree on. And then, like, it's really hard for them, like, take us seriously sometimes. But, like, that's why I do my best. Like, I try not to use plastic. I try not to use plastic. I try so hard. I mean, like, it's really hard, like, living up to expectations. And, like, you know, I'm not perfect. I swear I'm so not perfect. I'm not going to sit here and, like, try and be like, oh, I don't use plastic at all. No, I've used it once. I mean, like, I felt very, very guilty. That's why I'm trying my very best to, like, educate others, because I know that they're not really, like, well informed or, like, educated about what plastic can really do. I mean, like, it can, like, last for a long time, and then, like, animals can go and eat it, and then, like, birds can fly and eat it and stuff like that. That's why I don't want to just do this on my own and with the youth. I also, like, want to come into, like, an agreement, like, with, like, elders, and, like, have them, like, understand where I'm coming from, not in a disrespectful way, but in a way that we can, like, help each other, like, preserve our culture, preserve what's left, and just work together. I mean, like, cooperation, that is, like, one thing I'm, like, looking for, and it's one thing I'm trying to make happen. I mean, like, I'm not just doing this on my own. I'm doing this with a bunch of heirs here, very helpful heirs, very smart, intelligent heirs. Yeah, thank you. I just really wanted to share that.
That's amazing. Well, sadly, we've run out of time for your guys' session, but I can't thank each of you enough for just sharing a little bit of your community, a little bit of your heart for this issue. And, you know, really, I think for a lot of us, bringing us back to why we do what we do. And it's nature, it's the outdoors, it's our love for the things that exist on our planet. So thank you all so much for doing this, being a part of this special day with us. Have a great day. That's so weird for me to say because it's like nighttime here. So happy for all of you. Please stick around, definitely hang out with us if you can, but I couldn't be more thankful for you guys and all of the work that you're doing.